Next up, we have our first panel discussion for the day, titled Next Generation of Data Center and Innovation. Let me now introduce you to the moderator and the experts on the subject. We have with us our eminent moderator, Mr. Golok Kumar Simli, Technical Advisor and Chief Technology Officer, Ministry of External Affairs, India, Mr. Hamad Abdul Rahman, Director of ICT Directorate, King Hamad University Hospital, Mr. Kamran, Ahmed, Vice President, Data Quality Manager, the Saudi National Bank, and the last panelist for this first session is Mr. Cumai Aboul Housn, co-founder Biennale.ioo Art and Culture Metaverse. Over to the moderator, Mr. Simli, to get the session started. The stage is all yours.
Very good afternoon, all of you. Let me at the outset thanks ksacloud.com, Ms. Bridget and entire team for bringing me here. I also greet all my co-panelists who are attending this panel discussions. Now, directly coming to the panel questionnaires, let me put my first questions to Mr. Kamran. Hello, Mr. Kamran. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. How are you?
All well, Mr. Kamran. So, Mr. Kamran, you are heading the Technology and Data Quality Division of the Saudi National Bank. One of the biggest bank, I believe, and the banking and financial sectors. If I see, they are in the forefront of heading the technology, next generation data centers, cloud per se. At large. So how do you believe, Mr. Kamran, when it comes to the banking and financial sector, how are they progressing in terms of adopting the next gen data centers, the cloud enablement, and especially in terms of the pandemic hit us during 2019, what are the shifts you are observing towards the banking and financial sector? So over to you, Mr. Kamran. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for giving me this opportunity. The banks are normally adopting the technology very slowly until the technology is not very secure to them and and they know the implications. So banks are not basically working like on the edge of every technology. However, because of this slowness, that the lots of tech companies already overtake the payment systems, gateways, and all of those things like Google or Apple. And there are so many companies that are already in the ground. Now the banks basically start moving, like they are creating a new divisions, which is called the digital bank. And then they are creating the complete set of services to the consumer. But the banks alone not play any vital role, because the regulator is basically we need alongside, because the regulator is also very important. If they are not allowing, for example, the KYC before pandemic, it was impossible. The person has to be appear in presence, and then they have to say, okay, the KYC is done. Because of pandemic, the things are shift. Now online they can see, okay, and on digital record they can see and review, okay, the KYC can be done. The banks are adopting, for example, right now they are doing the digital banking heavily in this sector. Our bank is also doing a lot of digital banking initiative, like digital payments, plus all the digital channels for the working KYC, products and services, risk management, and they are doing all of those things. To me, the next era is basically is a digital. Many of the things we will do only digital, and because as I stated by the Mr. Sen from Dubai, as I said, okay, the Web 3.0 will change a lot of things, which we are doing. The next 10 years is going to be drastically a change, and we will see the lot of organization. The front face will be changed, and they will become the back office. In my opinion, the banks will become as a back office for the many countries. Over to you. I'm not able to hear Mr. Golok. Your mic is mute.
Yeah, sorry. So, Mr. Kamran, quickly, if I ask you for another 30 seconds, do you really observe there is a shift happening when the bank is adopting technology, especially after COVID-19? Do you really observe a shift?
I really observed that there is a big shift. There is a big shift happen because of during the pandemic, especially if you talk about the information security people. They are normally very conservative. And normally the big bosses or the old school sort of school said that, okay, the person has to appear here. He has to sit, I want to see that my team in front of me. This is a big shift have happened, and many people can work remotely, and then they can produce even more result. If I give my personal example, when I'm in home, I found myself I'm more productive compared to in office. Yes, so I'm not sure this is the case with everybody, but this is the case with me.
No, I do agree. I absolutely agree, Mr. Kamran. No, if we see, why only banks, but almost all sector, including government sector like us, there is a major shift happening, especially after COVID-19. And the way we are adapting technology, the way we are moving forward, there is a major shift going on. So thank you. Thank you. I'll come to you on my next round. Let me go to Mr. Hamad. Good afternoon, Mr. Hamad.
Good afternoon, Mr. Golok. How are you?
Thank you to everyone. Thank you, Mr. Hamad. So, coming to you, Mr. Hamad, again, the health sector, other than banking, now the health sector was, I'll say that they were the warrior during this COVID-19 pandemic, in the front as well as in the back offices. And what I could see, even in the health sector, when it came to adapting the new experience, especially in terms of dealing with the patients, dealing with making available information available right time at the right point. And then there was a lot of shift happening on the data center side, if I see, especially on the cloud journey, because that is the kind of agility we are looking, that is the kind of demand variations we are looking. So how do you put that aspect of the thing, and how do you also see going forward? Because now we have learned a new kind of a strategy in terms of technology adoption, especially this kind of a sudden pandemic, sudden problems. So how do you see the onward journey, Mr. Hamad? Your take, please.
Well, coming back to His Excellency's presentation, everything was linear till COVID hit. COVID disrupted the whole scene, especially with the healthcare sector. Not only did the health sector had to jump into a cloud transformation, but go even beyond that. Now, that is regards to the implications of the transitions and service deliveries and into operations. Let's take, for instance, teleconsultation. To do a proper, timely, and fashionable teleconsultation, you have to provide the data to the, I would say, the healthcare provider, or maybe the doctor or the surgeon or whoever. But the amount of data that is required for him to do the diagnosis is quite high. So transferring that to the cloud would take even whatever internet speeds you have, as per the number of data that is there and that is required for every diagnostic is quite high. That's quite demanding. You want to have a real-time experience of that. Not forget minutes, we're talking milliseconds. So now we're moving not only from cloud transformation with regards to the data center, but also into edge technology, micro edge technology. So you will have your setup transferred to the cloud, and another part of that transfer to your partners, to your to other regions and that are interlinked into your healthcare delivery. Now, that also comes into partnerships. So you will be inviting your partners to bring their technologies into your premises. So it is, I would say, changing rapidly just to meet that kind of real-time diagnostic, real-time data transfers and whatnot. So depending on what kind of services each healthcare organization provides, that will dictate what kind of setup that is required to meet that. Now you have other players in the field, like let's just say IoT is quite increasingly on the grow and on the rise. Not only that, last year Apple also provided integration with their healthcare app into major HIS systems. Cerner, for instance, Epic have direct diagnosis of that. So the doctor can actually see before meeting him, you can transfer that data there, and he can have years of data transferred in that, integrated with your technologies, and come up with a much more accurate and more personalized diagnostic. So that's what's going on in the data center. The data center, as we knew before, an enterprise data center does not exist. It's not only hybrid, it's edge, it's micro edge, it's containers, it's decimated altogether.
Very true, Mr. Hamad. I fully agree with you. And as you said, there are a lot of shifts happening in terms of workload. Some were running from on-premises, some were going to the cloud. Now, when these kind of shift happening, these kind of a strategy, shift happening in terms of accessing the data, in terms of authorizing the data, in terms of accessing the information, sharing the information, I'll not leave you without asking another question, maybe 35 seconds, saying that in terms of security, so when we are dealing this kind of a data, some offline, some online, some on premises, some kind of a cloud, what about the security concern? And especially on the health sector, if you ask me, health data, suppose the patient data got exchanged or some kind of a data got into a problem, it's a big catastrophe. So how have you dealt with that part, Mr. Ahmed?
Basically, the only way to actually tackle a whale is take one piece at a time. It's suddenly security, instead of just handling it at the forefront, just handling your firewall and just making sure nothing gets into your network. Your data center doesn't reside in your premises. It's in somebody else's data center. It's on the cloud. It's in another organization. Some other organization put your data into your premises. So the only way that we approached this was through ZTN, Zero Trust Network. Don't trust anything. Have everything in top security. Segment as much as you can, and have the backup of the backup of the backup. Just keep very diligent in that. Of course, cybersecurity, there is no 100%, but ZTN is I've seen is the only way to approach this.
Absolutely. I think I could not agree more what you have said. Zero trust security, security by design, intrinsic security to each layer of the and segment of your data center, network, application. I think that is the one which I followed personally during this entire exercise. So thank you, Mr. Hamad, bringing out so good points to us, briefing us on the how health sector you are dealing with and taking it forward. Let me come to Mr. Cumai. Thank you, Mr. Hamad. Good afternoon, Mr. Cumai.
Hi, good afternoon. Thank you for having me here.
Very good afternoon. So, Mr. Cumai, so the favorite one I'll ask you, saying that we are hearing a lot of, we heard the excellency, our excellency saying that is talking about AR, VR, AI, deep learning. There are a lot of things happening on the way. So how are you finding the impact of metaverse in terms of the data, especially the data industry, the data. We are generating so much of data, structured data, unstructured data, and it's all, data is not now we are generating, but it is mostly generated by the machines. So how are you finding the impact of metaverse in terms towards the data industry at large? Can you please tell us something on that?
Thank you. Actually, it's a small question, but it's a big world to explore. And thanks to His Excellency, I don't see too much left for me to dwell about this. I think two words. If we look at the last year and year before, there's two words became very common and very like common matters: the unprecedented and exponential. And I second His Excellency and talk about the exponential nature of what's happening, because, and now it's good, now we all learn that things happen this way. So when we talk about how something like alternative reality is affecting the data cloud, and so people will be more keen to listen and learn. In order to understand the magnitude of something like alternate, I call it alternative reality. Metaverse now is very much associated with a brand or with a certain product or certain experience. But in general, it's the alternative reality. So that is transforming our online experience. In order to understand the magnitude, we can look into other similar factors or similar drives, like the autonomous cars industry. Okay, now this is big. This changing the data production and the data consumption. Also, we have the gaming industry. The cloud gaming is now one of the big things and the growing sectors. Currently, we have around 1 million users in cloud gaming, and this is expected to double by 2030. Okay. Now, I'll go back to the autonomous cars. Every car generates 5 terabytes per hour. Okay. Now, if I compare what car, the amount of data generated by cars to the amount of data might be generated by a human in the metaverse, this is where I can see the magnitude of metaverse. Now, putting these two facts together, I have around 1 billion cloud gaming users. These are ready to convert or to activate on an alternative reality because they lived it, they know it, they are very keen to move to this direction, and they will be the driving force. They will be the spearheading this. Now, as an avatar in this virtual reality or in this alternative reality, you can be using in one web window or in your VR, you can be consuming hundreds of screens coming from hundreds of sources. So usually the normal user use one YouTube screen, but when I enter a room and there is 100 screens on the wall, all these screens are playing and I'm looking at this and that at the same time. This is where we can start imagining how my consumption as an avatar is totally different than my consumption as a user. I'm not limited anymore to one flat screen. I'm in an immersive space where I can act and interact. Another example is if we look at the advertising industry. Now, when I enter a website or any one of us enter a website, there's a lot of things happening in the back end. There's too many platforms auctioning and bidding to gain me as a user to show one ad banner. Yeah. Now, in the metaverse, it won't be the same scenario. You should not expect a banner to appear somewhere. This would be the first stage, but at the later stage, you should expect that brands can send you an AI avatar with a matching persona that can come and open a conversation with you to convince you to buy something or to change your opinion about something. So, and this will happen in real time. Okay, imagining all the processing required to reach this. This is, I think, where we can start seeing that huge magnitude, that huge impact.
Very true. I fully agree, Mr. Cumai, but let me put a related question. So when you say the kind of data usage going from, let's say, AI to machine learning to deep learning, now we're talking about AR, VR, then we're talking about metaverse. To my mind, it comes another question saying that, no, if that is the case, data being everything, data-driven business at large, what about the regulations? What about the compliances? What about the land of the lodge? And is it these new regulations, the new land of law, the new compliances coming into picture? How do you foresee, Mr. Cumai, is that these laws, upcoming laws, to date regulations, they will become a kind of a roadblock for this journey, or they will kind of complement each other to have another opportunity for all of us? So how do you see that? Maybe another 35 seconds, Mr. Cumai, please.
Okay, I will build my answer on what His Excellency said. We cannot predict the future based on the past. We need to look forward. I think our issue with the current majority, I don't say everyone, of regulators, they are still building based on what we have in hand or what happened before. We need to look forward. We need to see the future. As I explained before, now when I am in this immersive space, okay, the amount of data coming from many sources, from many channels, from many locations, from many geographical. So talking about data residency, let's say, this will be, I can say, irrelevant in similar cases, because now who can tell which piece of data is allowed to come or to be taken and which is not? So here the option either to block all these and lose the opportunity. Here in the region, we have huge opportunity. We have very good infrastructure. The metaverse require fast internet, speed internet, quality internet, and this is what we have. I'm talking about most of the region here. So we have a great opportunity to be in the front line and to lead the way. But if the regulation didn't follow and didn't support this, we will lose the power of, because most of the compliance comes from enterprises. And this is where we will lose the power of enterprises pushing the industry forward.
No, I totally second it. I think laws, compliances, regulations, and vis-a-vis, that business opportunity, how to deal with the data, there has to be a balance. We must strike balance, and we should go forward. Thank you, Mr. Cumai, putting forward so kind of views, so straightforward. So I come back to Mr. Kamran. Mr. Kamran, let's take another questions. Maybe we can have another round, saying that this round, let's try to focus between 1 and 1.5 minutes so that we can take some of the questionnaire from participant as well. So Mr. Kamran, my second question to you, saying that again, if I come back and say that banking and financial sector being one of the very mission critical kind of a data we deal. So do you really feel that there has to be a data strategy? This is high time that we must have a data strategy where we must ensure that, how do we deal with our mission critical data? How do we deal with our public data? How do we deal with our configurable data, confidential data? So how is that you are looking into that aspect, Mr. Kamran? Your take, please. Mr. Kamran?
I think he must be facing a few technical challenges. If you can
okay.
go ahead.
So then I think by that time I'll go to Mr. Hamad. Mr. Hamad, your network is all right, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so great. So I'll come back to Mr. Hamad. Mr. Hamad saying that again, I'll if I see the health sector data at large, it's a very critical sector. If I say health sector is the lifeline of all of us, and cyber security at one side. It is. Hamran, I'll come, Mr. Kamran. I'll come back to you. I am putting the question to Mr. Hamad. So, Mr. Hamad. Yeah. So, Mr. Hamad. If we see the health sector at large and the kind of data we are dealing, such a mission critical data, and one side, the kind of digitization happening, the kind of digital happening at large, the cyber security per se, if I see, it is increasing day by day. The threat landscape is increasing day by day. The threat vectors are increasing day by day. So how are you, kind of dealing with such emerging threats, new and new threat landscape at large towards the health sector, especially in your university, if I say. How are your strategy? What is your strategy to deal with that, Mr. Hamad?
Okay, I think we touched base in the previously in my previous question. Let's go back to ZTN, Zero Trust Network. So we work with 3 levels here. We have our current data center, the data center that we have, which is I would say hybrid, internal and external, which is on a cloud basis on premises. We have our cybersecurity concerns addressed for our data center that is deployed in another partner's premises. So that's something also you have to consider. And you have your partner's data centers, or like say micro edge, that is deployed in your premises. So what we do basically with microsegmentation is make sure that these silos can work completely separated from each other with less communication with each other as possible. So unless they need to connect on certain aspect, we put a middle ground on that. So if that breaks, right, it doesn't take down the whole system. So you would have a partial, I would say, issue that doesn't take the whole system itself. That is also with consideration with ZTN. Therefore, the users are also separated from the data center, right? So this is how we address it internally. So the users are able to access with any device it is. So if one device is compromised, the next device is not. If say their laptop is compromised, they can log in with their mobile, because nothing resides on the clients. It resides in different silos that are completely protected.
Absolutely. No, I think absolutely. I do agree saying that today, if we see the scenario, Mr. Ahmad, it is not from data to compute. I mean, most of the time, your most powerful device is your mobile device. So it is other way, rather it is compute to data now, right? Compute has come towards the device, right? So those scenarios, if we see, so endpoint security is one of the biggest concerns which we are observing across the globe. Why only at any place, but across the globe. So if I quickly ask another take on that, saying that one is, if you see the application services, whether it is a health sector, government sector, finance sector, banking sector, services more and more now it is being accessed through your mobile devices, right? Right. Services more and more it is available near to the user, right? It is no more kind of I have to travel and then only I get a service. Wherever I am, the services has to be made available, and that is the way I think the new data center, next generation data centers, cloud data centers, they are evolving in those directions, right? So if I ask one more question from you, Mr. Hamad, saying that if you see into the data center side, right, the cloud provider or the data center providers, do you really think that there is a kind of a synergy between what user is seeking or what the client is seeking and what the provider, the cloud provider or the data center provider is providing for? So how are you seeing that synergy happening between both of them?
You worded it perfectly. Actually set me up to my answer. It's mainly the phone is the most powerful device now currently. So think of it this way: instead of sending your, I would say, part of your data center that is required for the patient to go to the cloud, just give him that part. I mean, think of his mobile as a very minuscule cloud platform that he can run that query or whatever data is there. Just give him that access there. He can disseminate it on his phone, and it's only replicated for him only. So you can have that. Of course, for security, you have to have measures to authenticate that the person that you're sending the data is right. But again, with that, you can make sure that the whole is safe as much as possible, rather than a single person.
No, great, Mr. Hamad. Thank you so much for bringing out that point. So let me go back quickly to Mr. Kamran. Mr. Kamran, your connection is okay now?
Yeah.
So Mr. Kamran is back. So great, Mr. Kamran. So Mr. Kamran, what I was asking you, saying that banking, finance sector, the data being so mission critical. data being so kind of a categorized, sometime into mission critical data, sometime into public data, this data, that data. Do you really now feel that it is a high time we must have a data strategy in terms of how do you deal with your mission critical data? How do you deal with your public data? How do you deal with your personal data? So if that is the way things are moving forward, how are you, kind of a taking care with the Saudi bank as far as data strategy is concerned? Can you please tell us maybe within a 1 minute or 1.5 minutes, please?
Thank you. Basically, a bank or big enterprise always having a data strategy. It has never been missed. The only thing is right now, because the volume of data is too much and then new regulations are coming like GDPR, PIPDA, CCA from USA. So all of those regulations are also basically the part of regulation right now. The new regulation basically also mandated by the NDMO office, which is basically the Saudi Data Management Office, and they create a complete framework for all the banks and organizations to manage their data governance. They have to establish the data governance office. They have to deploy the proper organization structure, and after that they want everybody who's working in the organization. They also as a designate as a stewardship, data stewardship, because all we are using either generating or consuming or both. We are doing the function. So it means the data strategy cannot work with the few of the people. It has to work along with the people, all of the people, all of them are responsible. Yes, many of them, which is basically, for example, by designation, they are going to work on the data management. They are experts to secure the data, to create the information out of it. They create the master data management and the quality of assurance. So in that way, it's huge work going on right now in Saudi Arabia. Not only in the banks, all over the organizations, they are working on and setting up the new offices. So yes, we have a very aggressive strategy here to implement the data governance.
Oh, absolutely. I think that is the answer I was looking also, saying that no, absolutely right to say that no, it is high time that we must have a vibrant data governance model. It is high time that we must have a
Correct.
digital ethics inside the ecosystem at large. It is also high time that we also understand now, typically I say the 4-directional approach: your people, your deployment model, your rules of engagement, and the last one which you have touched, the tools and technology. How do you manage your data in terms of master data, in terms of data sovereignty, so on and so forth. So I think the best answer I got, Mr. Kamran. Thank you. So now let me come to Mr. Cumai straight away, putting my last question to Mr. Cumai. Good afternoon, Mr. Cumai.
Yeah, hi. Tell me.
Yeah, so one more question, very interesting for me. I always take this question wherever I speak, saying that the new era, the new digital era where remote, WFH, anytime, anywhere access, these are the buzzword these days, right? Now, but saying so, it is easy. Saying so, it looks easy. But when you actually try to adapt those things, in a corporate environment or in a, let's say, government setup, it's really difficult. But so how you feel, Mr. Cumai, when someone has to adapt a WFH environment or remote environment or anytime, anywhere access kind of a scenario? How do you see one should proceed in that direction, Mr. Cumai?
I think first businesses need to set their visions based on what's coming next year, not based on what's available now. I think this should be the main rule, because when we founded Biennale last year, the possibilities of Metaverse wasn't that brilliant, okay? But we experimented several stuff, and we took the route of having like fully Metaverse business presence. So this concept doesn't have any physical presence. All offices, everything is happening in the Metaverse. And this was the vision. So, but that time we believe that this will happen very soon. And actually, technology, the progress in technology didn't fail us. So I think we need to have big belief in what's happening, what's coming, and the acceleration or what happened in the last 2 years, I think, give us a lesson that things will happen very fast. And it's doable, it's feasible. I think many businesses, especially the new startups with diversified team from many locations, they can have very good solution to have their businesses established in a virtual or alternative reality space. And this will reduce their cost. This will help them to work as a team. Believe me, it's different when you meet as avatars than when you meet in Zoom or in Teams. And mentioning Teams, by the way, Microsoft already announced their new system. So maybe next year we will have Teams as avatars. So it's happening. Businesses should start at least experiment and explore possibilities even on small scale, on small teams. They need to see the potential and start building on it.
No, I do agree. I think this is a learning process. One is to adapt and strategize continuously. One had to learn and build continuously. And I think we have finished our questionnaire round. We can take some of the questions if some participant has asked some question. Ms. Bridget, do we have some questionnaire, Mr. Roger?
Yes, Golok. So Mr. Amit Sharma has asked a very small question. AWS or Microsoft Azure, which one is more in demand in Middle East market that could be outsourced for remote work in India? Probably Kamran, Cumai, or Hamad can throw some light on this.
Yeah, so thank you, Mr. Bridget, bringing out this question to us. So I'll take each one of their take. I'll go to Mr. Hamad first. So Mr. Hamad, you have heard about the questionnaire Bridget has put us. So can you please respond that quickly, please?
I've seen both actually. Both are quite used. Teams would be resource intensive, so depending on your internet speed. If it's an executive committee or a C-level, go with Teams. If it's more of a webinar or whatnot, as we can see, Zoom is more adamant. It's much more less bandwidth consuming.
Though I think I really agree. It typically it's a client's requirement. It's a business requirement. There's nothing about Azure or AWS. It is about your requirement, what requirement you have. So, thank you, Mr. Hamad. Mr. Kamran, your take, please.
See, again, as you stated already, that it's depend what is the requirement. Everything is basically, for example, I currently use Microsoft Azure and it's working fine. There is no issue in it. And similarly, it's depending on the regulatory requirement and plus what basically we need and at what cost. So it depends completely. These are the variables are basically which define which applications you have to use. If we talk about like Zoom, WebEx, or those things, again, this is the first come first serve application. Corporate adopt what? For example, when the pandemic started, the Zoom was ready. The Microsoft team was behind and Cisco was way beyond available, but the problem with the WebEx was it was a corporate level software, so nobody's using very much. So it's basically the who wins first and who bring the first technology in on the desk.
Yeah, I think that's what it is. It is the user experience, how you provide the user experience. That matters the most. Rather, it is a Azure or it is AWS. That's actually matters the most. So same question. Thank you, Mr. Kamran. Same questions, Mr. Cumai. Your take, please.
I think it's. I second the guys. It's about the ecosystem of the businesses using the possibility of integration and like what kind of other solutions they have. What's the possibilities of integration with the platform? this what will lead the decision. It's matter, and as you said, it's like a client experience or customer experience.
No, I fully agree, and I thank you once again giving me this opportunity to moderate this eminent panel. And we had a lot of learnings through this entire panel discussion, saying that next generation data center, cloud enablement. There is a journey, there is a kind of a strategy one has to adopt. And when it comes to the cloud provider or next generation data center provider, it is about the user experience. It is about the kind of agility the client is looking. It is about the kind of demand adjustment the client is looking. And it is also about the holistic visibility in terms of security and privacy. If these are the things one can ensure the next gen data center, all the cloud provider, I do personally believe, and as our MNL panelists have said, I think the journey looks very bright. The journey is very kind of a lot of opportunity in terms of taking it forward. And that's how I close the panel session. Thank you. Thank you so much. I once again thank
you.
KSAcloud.com and Miss Bridget, Miss Roger, and entire team, and all the eminent panelists. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Simli, for wonderfully moderating this panel. And I thank each of the panelists, Mr. Rahman, Mr. Ahmed, and Mr. Housn, for sharing their valuable thoughts. And we truly appreciate your presence here today. Please do have and continue to have a wonderful day ahead.